Most vivariums look completely different from each other, but nearly all of them can be grouped into 5 major categories: land-based, climate-based, planted ecosystems, water-based systems, and self-sustaining systems. Understanding those 5 groups gives you a complete map of the hobby. Here is every major type, fully explained. Land-based vivariums, classified by where the animal spends most of its time. Number 1. Terrestrial vivarium. Terrestrial vivarium is a ground-level enclosure built for animals that live on the floor. It is wider than it is tall, with substrate deep enough for burrowing species. Leopard geckos, corn snakes, ball pythons, skinks, and tortoises are the most common inhabitants. Floor space matters more than height. Everything in the build is oriented around the ground level. Unlike an arboreal build, vertical space is largely wasted here, which makes it one of the most straightforward setups in the hobby. 2. Arboreal vivarium. An arboreal vivarium is a vertical enclosure built for tree-dwelling animals. Unlike a terrestrial build, height is more important than floor space. Crested geckos, chameleons, day geckos, and tree frogs spend most of their lives climbing, so branches, vines, and elevated resting areas fill the space at multiple heights. The taller the enclosure, the more natural behavior the animal can express. Ventilation, vertical structure, and lighting all require more careful planning than a ground-level build. So far, we've focused on where animals live. The next group focuses on the environment those animals come from. Climate-based vivariums, classified by the environmental conditions they replicate. 3. Tropical vivarium. A tropical vivarium replicates the conditions of a rainforest: warm temperatures, very high humidity, dense live plants, and automatic misting systems. It supports a wide range of frogs, geckos, and tropical reptiles. Glass enclosures are standard because they retain heat and humidity efficiently. Unlike a desert build, moisture is constantly added rather than actively avoided. Humidity levels, ventilation, and plant health all require consistent monitoring to keep the environment stable. 4. Desert Vivarium A. Desert vivarium replicates arid environments where temperatures are high, humidity is very low, and a strong thermal gradient runs from a hot basking side to a cool resting end. Bearded dragons, uromastyx, horned lizards, and desert snakes are the most common inhabitants. Wooden enclosures are preferred because wood insulates heat far better than glass. Unlike tropical builds, moisture management is minimal, but the thermal gradient must be precise, requiring proper equipment and a well-planned setup. 5. Temperate vivarium. A temperate vivarium replicates the forests and meadows of North America, Europe, and parts of Asia. Temperatures are cooler than tropical or desert builds and shift across the seasons. Garter snakes, newts, salamanders, and box turtles are typical residents. Unlike most other vivarium types, the enclosure must change across the year. Many temperate species require a cooler winter period to cycle and breed naturally, adding a layer of planning that static enclosures do not require. 6. Mediterranean vivarium. A Mediterranean vivarium replicates the hot, dry summers and cool, wet winters of southern Europe and North Africa. It is similar to a temperate build, but with more extreme seasonal swings between dry and humid periods. Hermann's tortoises, wall lizards, and Mediterranean house geckos are common inhabitants. Unlike a straightforward tropical build, humidity and temperature must be deliberately adjusted across a 12-month cycle. The seasonal cycling requires active management rather than a fixed maintenance routine. Climate defines what lives inside an enclosure. The next group goes one step further, focusing on how much biology exists inside the enclosure itself. Planted ecosystem vivariums classified by biological complexity. 7. Planted vivarium A. Planted vivarium is an enclosure where live plants are the primary focus and animals are secondary. The plants regulate humidity, improve air quality, and provide natural cover for small frogs, tiny geckos, and invertebrates. Unlike a display build using artificial plants, a planted vivarium requires proper full-spectrum lighting, a nutrient-rich substrate, and basic plant care knowledge. Plant health depends on lighting, substrate, and watering discipline that basic enclosures do not demand. 8. Naturalistic vivarium. A naturalistic vivarium prioritizes replicating the physical structure of a wild habitat using real wood, real rock, real substrate, and live or realistic plants. The goal is behavioral accuracy. Every element should allow the animal to perform behaviors it would carry out in nature. Unlike a bioactive build, Waste management remains manual. The focus is on structure and enrichment rather than managing a living biological system. 9. Semi-bioactive vivarium. A semi-bioactive vivarium includes live plants and some cleanup crew, but still requires regular manual maintenance. Unlike a full bioactive system, it is not self-sustaining, but it provides meaningful biological support that reduces cleaning frequency and improves enclosure health. Many keepers prefer this approach because it delivers most of the benefits of a bioactive build without the complexity of maintaining a fully self-sustaining ecosystem. It is the most practical entry point for keepers moving toward full biological systems. 10. Bioactive vivarium. A bioactive vivarium is a fully functioning ecosystem. Leaf plants, isopods, springtails, and beneficial bacteria work together to break down animal waste naturally, cycling nutrients back into the soil. Unlike a naturalistic build, the enclosure actively maintains itself. A properly established bioactive vivarium can run for years without substrate replacement. Setup must happen in stages, with the biological system fully established before any animals are introduced. Balancing plant growth, cleanup crew populations, and animal waste output is what separates this from every other vivarium type. Once plants and ecosystems become the focus, the next step is adding water, and that changes everything. Water-based vivariums. These vivarium classified by the relationship between land and water. So number 11 is aquatic vivarium. An aquatic vivarium is a fully water-filled enclosure with no land section. Fish, aquatic frogs, invertebrates, and submerged plants fill the entire volume. It serves as the foundation for more specialized water-based systems, such as aquascapes, ripariums, and many paludariums. Unlike land-based builds, the primary challenge is water chemistry. pH, ammonia, and nitrate levels must be actively managed at all times. 12. Aquascape Vivarium. An aquascape vivarium is a planted aquarium built as an artistic underwater landscape, pioneered by Takashi Amano in the 1990s. Aquascaping transformed aquariums from simple animal displays into living landscape art. Stones, driftwood, and aquatic plants are arranged to create natural-looking underwater environments. Unlike a standard aquarium where fish are the feature, the plants are the centerpiece here. Plant growth, CO2 management, and hardscape planning all require deliberate skill and long-term patience. 13. Paludarium. Paludarium combines land and water in a single enclosure, replicating swamps, jungle streams, and river edges. Both sections must function independently. The land side manages humidity and plants, while the water side manages filtration and water chemistry. Unlike a standard vivarium, it is essentially two separate environments built inside one tank. Tree frogs, semi-aquatic turtles, crabs, and small fish are common residents. Both sections must be maintained simultaneously without either compromising the other. 14. Riparium. A riparium is a primarily water-based enclosure with a narrow shoreline strip where immersed plants grow, roots below the waterline, leaves rising above it. Unlike a paludarium, a riparium focuses almost entirely on aquatic life, while still allowing shoreline plants to grow naturally above the water surface, replicating a riverbank or floodplain edge. Small fish, shrimp, and semi-aquatic invertebrates are the most common inhabitants. Water circulation, immersed planting, and nutrient balance all interact and must be managed together. The final category takes everything we've built and removes as much human involvement as possible. Self-sustaining systems, classified by how much human intervention they require. So in this group, we have Closed Terrarium A. Closed terrarium is a fully sealed glass enclosure with no ventilation and no regular inputs. Moisture evaporates, condenses on the glass, and falls back down as rain, creating a permanent internal water cycle with no human involvement. Unlike every other vivarium type, it houses plants only and requires almost no maintenance once the system reaches equilibrium. The most famous example is David Latimer's bottle garden, sealed in 1972 and still alive today. Once correctly set up and sealed, the system manages itself entirely. Most vivariums can be understood through these 5 major classification groups: land-based, climate-based, planted ecosystem, water-based, and self-sustaining. Many builds combine elements from more than one group, and that is where the hobby gets interesting. Once you understand the classification, every vivarium becomes easier to understand, build, and compare.